What if the most powerful message a woman ever sends you is the one she never writes? You've been there. That message you sent sits there, delivered, maybe even read, and as the hours stretch into days, your mind turns into a courtroom, with you as the sole defendant, trying to figure out your crime. You feel that gnawing urge to text again, to fix whatever is broken. But what if that urge is the very thing destroying your chances? Today, we are not just going to decode her silence. We are going to transform it. We are going to turn your greatest source of anxiety into your ultimate source of power. Using the timeless wisdom of the Stoics, by the end of this video, you will never look at a receipt the same way again. Believe it or not, silence from a woman isn't just an absence of noise, it's a message. Packed with meaning. Maybe you're living it right now. The text is sent, the reply never comes, and your mind, it starts running laps. Did I say something wrong? Did I come on too strong? Is she even interested anymore? That confusion doesn't just sit there. It's a quiet poison that seeps into your confidence every single time you glance at your phone. And I get it, that ache of not knowing, of being left in limbo, is brutal. But here is the profound truth. What if I told you that her silence actually has more meaning than her words ever could? That in her not calling, not texting, she's revealing something crucial about herself, and, more importantly, about you. In this video, we're throwing out the same tired, useless dating advice like, play it cool, or just wait it out. No, we are diving deeper. We are going to unpack exactly what her silence means, not just on the surface, but psychologically, emotionally, and even spiritually. We'll look at it through the lens of Stoic philosophy, modern psychology, and real-world behavior, and most importantly, we will map out how you should respond, not just react. By the end, you won't just feel less confused, you will feel in control. Because once you truly understand the power of silence, you stop chasing noise. Ready? Let's begin. 1. The silence isn't always a negative judgment. Here's the first mental trap most guys fall into right out of the gate. They instantly assume that silence means rejection. If she's not texting back, it must mean she's done with you, right? Not always. In fact, a significant portion of the time, her silence has absolutely nothing to do with you, and everything to do with the world inside her own head. She might be overwhelmed at work, emotionally drained from a family issue, or simply processing her own thoughts in a way that feels natural to her. Women, generally speaking, tend to communicate in waves, like tides ebbing and flowing. It's not uncommon for them to go quiet when they're grappling with stress, when they're unsure about how they feel, or even, paradoxically, when they genuinely like someone and are scared of moving too fast. We live in a culture that demands instant replies and constant validation. But real human connection, especially in its delicate early stages, rarely follows that frantic rhythm. There's a deep psychological layer here. 2. Linguists like Deborah Tannen have highlighted how men often view communication as transactional, a problem to be solved, while women often see it as relational, a bond to be nurtured. For many men, a text is like a ping. You send it out and expect a ping back. For many women, a text is an invitation to a conversation, and if she doesn't have the social or emotional energy for that full conversation at that moment, she may not send the initial ping at all. But most men interpret that gap as personal rejection because we're wired to associate a lack of response with failure. That misinterpretation triggers anxiety, which then leads us to act in ways that actively sabotage attraction, over texting, chasing, desperately trying to fix something that was never even broken. So, before you jump to a conclusion, take a breath. Her silence doesn't always mean something is wrong. Sometimes, it just means she's human. 2. The Stoic response to uncertainty. When she doesn't text back, the average guy reacts. He spirals, he overthinks, checks his phone 100 times, and replays conversations in his head, searching for the fatal flaw. But this is precisely where the Stoic mindset separates the boys from the men. Stoicism is built on one unshakable principle. You cannot control what happens outside of you, but you can achieve absolute mastery over what happens inside of you. The ancient Stoic philosopher Epictetus said it best: it's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters. In the deafening silence from her phone, you are presented with a choice. You can follow the path of reaction, letting anxiety and insecurity dictate your next move, or you can pause, breathe, and choose the path of the Stoic: stillness. This stillness is not indifference, it is presence. It is the conscious decision not to let someone else's silence disturb your inner peace. Most of us were never taught how to sit with uncertainty. We were taught to fix, to pursue, to solve, but not to simply be. The Stoic doesn't chase answers that aren't being offered. He recognizes that her silence is not a problem to be solved, it's just an event, completely neutral in nature, until he assigns a meaning to it. And instead of assigning a destructive meaning like, "she's done with me," or "I'm not good enough," the Stoic reframes it: "This is an opportunity to return home to myself." That might sound poetic, but it is intensely practical, because in that space, in that pause, you get to build real strength, mental clarity, emotional discipline. You stop being a man who needs a response to feel worthy, and you start becoming a man who is centered and whole, regardless of who or what comes and goes. That isn't just attraction, that is true power. 3. Her silence often tests your emotional strength. Here is one of the most overlooked truths in modern dating. Her silence might not be rejection at all, it might be a test. And I don't mean a manipulative or cruel game. I mean a deep, instinctual, and often subconscious one. Women, whether they realize it or not, are constantly testing for emotional strength, not with their words, but with their behavior. Pulling back, going quiet, or slowing down communication are all subtle ways of asking a fundamental question. Can you handle this? Can you handle me? It's a comfort test, and it's more about discovering who you are under pressure than what she feels in that exact moment. She is watching, subconsciously, to see if you will lose your center. Will you become needy, reactive, emotionally unstable the moment her attention is withdrawn? When you do, she learns everything she needs to know. This isn't women playing games. This is biology. It's about an instinctual drive for emotional security. In evolutionary psychology, tests like these aren't about cruelty, they're about survival. A woman is biologically wired to seek a strong protector, and in our modern world, strength is rarely about muscles or money. It is about composure. If her silence sends you into an emotional spiral, it signals instability, but if you remain grounded, calm, and self-assured, you communicate the very thing she is looking for on the deepest level: safety. The Stoic man doesn't panic when he's not being validated externally, because his validation comes from within. And that quiet, unshakable confidence, it's louder and more attractive than any text you could ever send. So, you've learned to be the rock. You've passed the initial test by remaining calm and centered. But this is where most men stop. They just wait. Stoicism, however, isn't about passive waiting. It's about purposeful action. The question isn't just, how do I not panic? The real question is, what do I do with this space she's given me? Because her silence isn't just a test, it's also an invitation to build. We've established that her silence is an invitation to build. But before you can lay the first brick, you must first understand the one sacred rule that can never, ever be broken. 4. If you chase her silence, you lose. Here is the brutal, inescapable irony of attraction. The very moment you start chasing her silence, you almost guarantee it will continue indefinitely. The more you reach out, the more you try to pull her attention back with double texts, over apologies, or those transparently needy, just checking in messages, the more you viscerally push her away. Why? Because the energy has fundamentally shifted. You have moved from being a man who commands respect to one who is begging for reassurance. And nothing, absolutely nothing, kills attraction faster than the scent of desperation. Psychologically, this is rooted in a principle called reactance. When people feel their freedom or autonomy is being threatened, even subtly, they instinctively push back to reclaim it. So if she is already creating space for herself and you lunge to close that gap, she doesn't feel pulled closer, she feels suffocated. What's worse is that by chasing, you voluntarily hand her all the power in the dynamic. You are now waiting for her response like a puppy waiting for a treat. And that imbalance of power slowly drains all respect and polarity from your connection. She may not even be consciously aware of why, but she feels it. Your energy becomes anxious instead of attractive. It's the difference between a man whose presence says, "My world is full, but I'd be happy for you to join it," and a man who pleads, "Please notice me so my world can begin." One is powerful, the other is forgettable. So if you feel that burning temptation to close the gap too quickly, stop, let her feel your absence, not to punish her, but to give her the necessary space to wonder, to miss, and ultimately, to choose to come back. And in that space, you reclaim your value, not by saying anything at all, but by having the strength to say nothing when it matters most. 5. What you should do instead, the path of active building. So what should you actually do when she goes quiet? You focus on the only thing you ever truly have control over in the first place, yourself. But not in a passive, "I'll just wait it out" kind of way. You must engage in an active, intentional way that shifts your energy from her life back into your own. This is where so many men fail. They sit around, obsessing, watching the little green dot on Instagram, overanalyzing when she was last online. But that energy, that draining mental loop, it's not just unattractive, it's a waste of your life force. You need to flip that script entirely. Instead of asking, "Why isn't she texting me?" you must ask yourself a more powerful question. Where have I been neglecting myself? Because 9 times out of 10, her silence is simply a spotlight, pointing you back to your own unfinished business, your goals, your health, your mission, your personal growth. This isn't some vague self-help mantra, it is a battle plan for reclaiming your power. When you shift your focus inward, you stop being a man waiting for something to happen and you start being the man who makes things happen. Go journal what you're feeling, not to vent, but to clarify your thoughts. Go to the gym and lift heavy weights, not to distract yourself, but to channel your anxious energy into physical power. Build something, learn a new skill, expand your world so that it is infinitely larger than her. The truth is, the more full, focused, and purposeful your own life becomes, the less a delayed text message can ever shake you. Because now, you're no longer sitting in emotional limbo, you are a man in motion. And movement breeds confidence. Women are drawn, on a primal level, to that forward momentum, not to a man who waits, but to a man who moves forward. With or without them, that isn't a tactic, it's a lifestyle, and it's one she will notice without you ever needing to say a single word. 6. If she returns, you remain the captain of your ship. Let's play this out. The silence breaks. She texts you. Maybe it's a casual, "Hey, how have you been?" Or something even colder, like a meme or a random comment, acting as if nothing happened. This is the final exam, and most men fail it spectacularly. They either explode with relief and jump right back in, acting like they were just waiting by the phone, or worse, they become passive-aggressive, trying to guilt-trip her to teach her a lesson. Both paths lead to failure. Here's the truth. If you have genuinely spent that silent period working on yourself, growing, and recalibrating your own life, then you no longer need her message. You get to choose how you respond to it. And in that choice lies your real power. You're not punishing her, and you are certainly not rewarding inconsistent behavior. You are simply maintaining the self-respect you painstakingly built in her absence. This means you respond calmly, maturely, and with implicit boundaries. You don't ignore her unless you've truly decided to move on. But you also don't hand over your entire emotional state just because she reappeared. A simple, powerful message like, "Hey, good to hear from you. I've been busy with some new projects," is more than enough. This simple phrase is a masterpiece of self-respect. It says, "I'm glad you're back, but my world didn't stop turning when you disappeared." In fact, it spun faster. It puts the ball back in her court and, most importantly, it communicates something profound. You don't need her to feel okay anymore. That is attractive. That is rare. Most people expect their absence to be felt as pain. When you respond with peace and forward momentum, that's when they truly start to wonder what they lost. Conclusion. So the next time you are met with silence, do not let your mind spiral into panic or self-doubt. See it for what it is, a mirror. It isn't showing you her feelings about you. It is showing you the state of your own foundations. Silence doesn't mean she holds the power. It means you have been given the space to discover where your power truly lives. And that power, it's not in what you say or how quickly you respond. It's in how steady you remain when validation isn't being handed to you. It's in your ability to move forward, to focus on your mission, and to stay grounded even when uncertainty knocks at your door. This is what Stoicism teaches, not to shut off your emotions, but to master them. It's the ability to use that silence as a mirror and ask, am I a man who waits for a text to feel worthy? Or am I a man who already is? Let her wonder, let her feel your absence, not because you're trying to play games, but because you have outgrown the need to chase breadcrumbs of attention. You are not angry, you are not bitter, you are centered, you are a man who builds. And the more you live in that calm, deliberate, powerful place, the more everything that is meant for you will naturally find its way to you. Not because you begged for it, but because you became the kind of man who attracts it by his very nature. If this message resonated with you, not just in your mind, but in that quiet, deep part of your soul, then your journey with this is just beginning. This isn't just a channel, it's a training ground for men who are done chasing and are ready to build. Hit the subscribe button and join the men who choose composure over chaos. Like this video to signal that you are committed to your own growth. And leave a comment with the word "scented" to declare that you are taking back your power. Starting today, stay grounded, stay focused, stay stoic.